Men are good, as are you. Indeed, men are good. You know who else is good? Ed Bartlett. Ed Bartlett's sitting next to me. Ed and I go back a long time. Back to we started working with NCFM in DC. I mean, over 20 years ago. I can't even remember how long it was. But Ed is a fascinating character. He's got a PhD. He worked for for Home and Health and Human Services. Is that right? And
That's correct.
wrote 100 over 100 peer-reviewed papers or press releases. I mean, just he's done all kinds of things. But in my book, one of the most important things Ed has done has been he's the founder of CEDV and DAVIA. For those of you who don't know, these are domestic violence groups where he's been working hard to try and get men recognized as victims of domestic violence and get services for men. And we all know men don't have any services. So Ed, really beautiful work with that. But one of the things Ed's been tapping away at lately has been the UN. And the UN has gone off the rails in some ways. Ed, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, certainly, Tom. Hey, great to chat with you. So this all goes back to 1947. That's when the United Nations was established, and there was immense high hopes that the United Nations would usher in a new era of world peace, of harmony, of gender equality, and all of those good things. But over the years, sadly, this concept of gender equality was supplanted by the Marxist idea of uh, oppressor and oppressed, right?
Yes,
And of
yes.
course, men were given they were designated as the oppressors, patriarchal oppressors. Women were designated as the victims, and sadly, that thinking now permeates the entirety of the United Nations.
Yep.
So that's where this whole thing has gone off the rails, is the infiltration of Marxist ideology.
Yes. Yes. And it infiltrates the UN in so many different ways, but one of the ways is this whole women only thing. I mean, they're like a Mobius strip in my mind. I mean, they look at only the female side. They're completely blinded to anything that has to do with men's pain. And so it's just a mess. And
And
now, so,
there's so many areas of gender inequality affecting men, and we could spend a whole discussion on that. I'm not going
oh, and
to.
we will someday.
But if we were going to talk about gender equality, we really would have to focus at least equally on the issues that affect men.
Yes, yes, indeed we would. But now, what about domestic violence and the UN?
Oh yeah, well that's all part of this narrative, this Marxist
Right,
narrative. So
right.
let's start with the research. The research, there have literally been hundreds, hundreds of studies in 40 countries around the world showing domestic violence is an equal opportunity problem. Women are just as likely, or maybe even more likely, to be instigators of domestic violence, not
Yes.
just in the US, but across the world. Around the world, we see this pattern from research. But now look at the United Nations. It's not that they downplay the existence of male victimizations, they ignore it, they whitewash it
Right,
altogether.
right, right. It's unbelievable. It's just hard to imagine they could be like that. I know regarding men, when I was with Janice and Paul, we did, I think, two different videos on how sexist the United Nations was. But unlike us, you've done something different. I mean, you are now taking action to try and thwart this. Tell us what you're up to.
Well, certainly. So we did establish the DAVIA group that you mentioned a minute ago. DAVIA stands for the Domestic Abuse and Violence International Alliance. We proudly have 122 organizational members in 34 countries all around the world, in every continent of the world except for Antarctica. We don't have any members there as of yet, but
Ed.
we have members in Africa, Latin America, Europe, so forth and so on. So Davia has been working to change this narrative, change this Marxist-driven narrative of male perpetration, female victimization, and so we've come to the realization that the evil empire resides at the United Nations. So
Yes.
this is why we are focusing on the UN.
Yes. And what are you doing with the UN?
Well, we have recently launched a petition,
Right.
and we don't mess around here. We're not wishy-washy. The petition calls for the overall defunding. Again, the defunding of the United Nations until all of these discriminatory programs and anti-male uh, activities are brought to an end.
Amen.
So, so it's a petition. It's on change.org. It's easy to find. So yes, that's our goal.
Yeah, we'll have a look at it right now. I think that's the petition right there, isn't it?
That's the petition. Yes, and it's
Yeah.
growing.
Yeah. Let's get some more signatures on there. A couple thousand would be good to start, eh?
Well, for
Couple.
sure. So again, yeah, search under defund the United Nations. It'll pop right up on the Google search. It's very easy to find it. It takes literally 1 minute to put your name in there, and you're good to go.
And we will have a link below that you can just click and go there and put your name on it. Put your John Hancock on this because you're going to have a press conference in New York with this.
Yes. So we will be holding a press conference in March. So March, as you may know, is the annual event, the big annual event at the United Nations. It's called the Commission on the Status of Women. This is literally where thousands of radical feminists descend on New York City to hold their secret meetings to discuss how are we going to topple the patriarchy. So while is going on at the Commission on the Status of Women, we will be holding this press conference about the petition.
Yes, I'd say that takes some chutzpah, and I appreciate that. You know, you're gonna go right into the devil's nest, you know, and lay it on them there. So have your name on that petition before Ed goes to New York to do this. Or if you're in New York, can they join you? Can people come?
Yeah, absolutely. The press conference will be open to the public. We'll be providing details later. It
Yes.
will be on March the 12th, which is a Tuesday.
Put that date on your calendar if you're in the New York area and go and be with Ed and stand up for what's right. Indeed. So Ed, thank you. It's been good. It's been good. Let's hope lots of people go and sign it because man, the UN is really it's a sad state of affairs, eh?
It needs a very thorough washing inside and out. And yes, so we're gonna lead that charge. We're gonna be bold.
And I really appreciate your leading it. And you take good care. We'll see you on the next one. Men are good, as are you.